Developing Tomorrow's Leaders is a podcast that is all about educating, supporting, and inspiring the next generation of leaders. Your host, Coach T, has over 35 years' experience of educating, supporting, inspiring, and enhancing the lives of many young men and women. Join Coach T and his village of inspiration.
My guest today is another former player of mine from the early 90s. Had the pleasure of coaching him when he was 14 years old. And he was, let's say, a tenacious, just a hungry guy that just got after it in every facet on offense, on defense. Actually was recruited by a couple of D1 schools, ended up going to Emory and Henry, playing basketball there. And I am very proud to say that he won the state title in Virginia in 2016 with Monacan High School. It was actually a rival of my alma mater, but that's okay. We won't hold that against him. But the other thing is I actually had the pleasure of coaching against him as well, but I prefer coaching him as opposed to coaching against him. Hope you will help me welcome Coach R.J. Spelsberg. How you doing, Coach?
Hey, Coach. Nice to see you, man. Excited to be a part of your good thing you got going on here.
Oh, man. So it's great because you're on it, my man. And I know we'll talk a little bit about it, but, the relationship we've had since the 90s, we've stayed in contact over the years, and I've watched you grow as a teenager into a man, into a leader. At the ultimate level, you're taking a group of young men and making them believe in themselves. And I know you're going to talk a little bit about that, but believe in themselves and win a state title. That's impressive. And it goes to the heart of who you are as a person, not just as a coach.
Well, I appreciate that, Coach. And, I attribute a lot of my success to being able to appreciate my former coaches and what they taught me as a player. And, I learned some things from them. Like you, obviously, I learned a lot from you, and I appreciate everything you did for me. I wish I could, like I've said in the past, emulate you is the best Coach T, but you were great. I learned some things from my high school coach, Coach Hinthorn. And then obviously when I got to college at Emory and Henry, I learned a lot from Coach Bob Johnson. But you don't realize it as you're going along, but you start to appreciate it later on in life, what you've actually learned from great basketball coaches like the three that I just named.
Well, that goes to a lot of what you try to teach your player. I know you teach your players, and what I teach kids too is to value relationships and the knowledge that you learn from every person that you come in contact with, because everybody you meet can drop a nugget for you that you can carry for the rest of your life. And I think you, with the three coaches you mentioned, and I know Coach Henthorn, the things that you've learned from him as well as myself is something that you carry and you share with your players, and you hope that they'll do the same when they grow and get older. And I know that it's Jordan, I believe Jordan is a former player of yours. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That I met?
Jordan Arnold. Yeah, he actually was on my first middle school team when I graduated from Emory and Henry. I was 23 years old, became a head coach, and he was the point guard on my first middle school team. And we've remained, I guess, so-called friends. That's back in 1998. So, he's kind of like the same thing as our relationship a little bit,
right?
Which is pretty exciting.
Well, the reason I bring that up is because Coach Spelsberg came to speak at one of our camps a few years ago, and Jordan showed up, and we took a picture. And it truly is a picture of the lineage of me coaching him and then him coaching Jordan. And you had three generations player and coach. And I think that that's what's important in the power of relationships that coaches can have with players. I want you to share your state championship run with everybody, because this story, and by the way, Coach Spelsberg actually gave me a championship T-shirt, and he actually cut off a piece of the net and gave that to me. So that's a true testament to the heart of this man and his integrity. But I'd love for you to share that run, because it's so inspirational to me as well.
Well, we were coming off the first year as a coaching staff. We were 11-13 at Monacan. Had some good players coming back. I think we started the season 4-8 in 2016. And I think I had 6 players play college basketball off that team. So had a lot of good talent that helped me, make me look good, but they were really good players. Had a kid named Alden Parham who went to VMI and finished 4 years at VMI as a all Southern Conference point guard, 1,000-point scorer at VMI, who ended up being our state player of the year, averaging only 12 points a game, but he was named state player of the year in Virginia. So that ought to tell you that it's more than scoring points. We went on a late season run. We got into the region tournament. We played Lake Taylor in the regions, and they beat us by 14 points. The region tournament at that time was regional seeding of the top 8 teams, depending on how you finished in the region tournament. And we finished in 8th place. So we were the 8th seed going into the state tournament, and we played first round up at JMU, Loudoun Valley out of Northern Virginia, who hadn't lost a game in 2 years. And we won on a couple free throws at the end of the game, which put us in the state semifinals back at the Siegel Center in Richmond. And we played George Washington Danville, a historic power out of Virginia, GW Danville. We were 17 for 17 from the free throw line, pulled out a victory on a last-second shot at the buzzer. Had a great shot at the buzzer by Wallace Washington, who sent us to the state final, something you see off a TV, show. And then, so we're matched up against Lake Taylor again in the state championship game, the team that just beat us by 14 points the week before. And we were down with 4 minutes left, maybe 10 or 12 points. And we end up hitting a tying 3-pointer with under a minute, and then sealed it with 4 straight free throws to win the state championship. Pretty exciting, unbelievable, did this just happen to me type run, Cinderella story. But it was more about the kids. They just believed in each other. They were all good friends. They hung out outside of the basketball gym. And they just decided at some point in the year that they were going to, make everybody believe that they were a good team. And they just took off and made the magic happen.
And your motto for that year was?
Make them believe. It's actually a motto that Alden Parham, the kid that went to VMI, came up with when we were 4 and 8. He said, we're going to win a state championship. We're going to make everybody believe. And it came true. So that's been our motto that we've had at Monacan that'll, go down in the history books. It was pretty cool. Something that you can't make up, but, it actually happened.
Hey, man, I think you may have gotten somebody, if somebody's going to listen to this and make a movie out of this. You hear me?
Well, the funny part is we went to JMU, our coach in AAU, and played on that same court. And that was probably the first time I went back there since I was 14 years old, and then won a huge game. We won that game, and it brought back so many memories of when I played for you as a child. So.
No, that's great. And what's interesting about that, when you mentioned JMU, one of the things I want listeners to know too is JMU was one of the schools that was looking at you when we went to that camp there, and they saw you play. So I think it's kind of neat that you end up going back there years later to play in a state tournament game on a court that you could have potentially played college, if things had kind of worked out that way. But that's just a great story, really inspiring. But it also goes to show you that you can be down but not out. I mean, if you just believe in yourself and the people around you, and you providing the leadership for them, which I know was a natural for you. But I love that story just because you can be down but not out as long as you stick to it and kind of go through. One of the things I wanted, and one of the reasons I wanted to have you on to talk about is your role as a coach, away from the X's and O's and the training and all those things like that. Just the inspiration that you pull from yourself and why you want to dedicate yourself to providing knowledge and direction to young men beyond the game of basketball, because I know that's what you do.
Well, I just want kids to succeed. I want them to, learn the right and wrongs of life. And sometimes you get through to some kids and sometimes you don't. You try to steer them in the right direction. And, that's why I got into teaching. I teach at St. Edward's School over here on the south side of Catholic school. And, you're there to help the kids to try to, steer them in a positive direction. And sometimes that's hard. and sometimes they don't get it. And back to the word appreciation, sometimes you get kids later on down the road, 15, 20 years from now, come back and say, Coach, I remember what you were talking about. Whether, it's basketball or not basketball. We try to help the kids in any way we can. And I know sometimes they may not feel like we're helping them, but we are in reality.
Yeah. And I think it would be safe to say that your players understand you as RJ, the coach, and RJ, the person. They can distinguish between the two, correct?
Yeah. I have some decent relationships with some of the kids as RJ, the person, once they graduate and things like that, we'll meet up for dinner and talk about different things besides basketball and just what's going on in their life. And then, as the head coach, you can't be Mr. Nice Guy all the time. You have to, try to instill some values and discipline and characteristics that you want to see on and off the court. And sometimes that's not always fun for your players, but hopefully it sinks in at some point and they can make good choices with the things they do on and off the court, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. And your reference about, meeting up with players after they graduate, and, just having dinner with them. Share with our listeners that years after we parted ways and I moved here to North Carolina, and my mom still lives in Chesterfield. And when I come visit, you always say, Coach, let me know when you come to town. Well, I reached out to Coach Spelsberg and said, hey, I'm going to be in town visit my mom. He goes, oh, I'm going to get Junior, and the three of us are going to go and let's go out and have drinks. And the three of us go out and we had the absolute best time. But what made it so great, of course, we're telling, old stories about and talking about guys, if we, heard where people are and things of that nature. But it was the camaraderie, and it felt like we were old friends and not former player-coach relationship. And that is what I think is a missing element in the lives of a lot of kids, and not just from basketball coaches. I'm just saying with adults in general. I don't think they have an appreciation. You mentioned it earlier about appreciation for the commitment sometimes that, coaches make. And you hope, like you mentioned, that the years later they may get that message. But for those that are listening, I think they need to understand that parents need to understand that your kids share more with their coaches than they share with you sometimes. And I don't think they realize that. And then we as coaches take those snippets and that bit of knowledge from those kids and use that to help mold them as an extension of parents.
Absolutely. And the one thing that that really stands out about you, Coach, is when I was in high school and played for you, you used to like, hey, let's meet up at Pizza Hut with a couple of the guys, or hey, I'm going to take you guys to the regional tournament game. And so we got to see that side of you that was not basketball, even though you were a great basketball coach and all the X's and O's and you knew how to relate to the players, but you gave us a little bit of that outside piece as well. Funny stories. I remember you even would come to the high school football games when Clover Hill was playing Meadowbrook. And I remember meeting up with you at Clover Hill, and I went to look for you, and you're up in there in the band playing the drums.
You remember that?
Yeah, but it's like things like that, makes you a valuable person and a valuable coach, because you can build relationships and you have a good personality. And, that was cool to me. Like I wanted to be around my coach in a different light besides the basketball court. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's exactly what I'm talking about. I think kids don't realize the relationship they can have with their coaches. But the flip side of it is there aren't a lot of coaches that I know now, or the ones that I see around here, that do that. They're so focused on winning. They're so focused on X's and O's. They don't take the time to get to know their players like that. And I think that's how you pull the best out of them, is by letting them see who you really are, so they can understand why when you're tough on them, they know, oh, that's the tough coach guy, but I know him as that compassionate, funny guy that does crazy stuff. So I can really relate to why he's doing it or she's doing that. That's where my biggest frustration comes from watching coaches, because I've been to high school games here, Coach, and I'll tell you, it's hard to watch. it is so hard to watch the interaction coaches have with their players because there isn't that connection. You could tell how coaches talk to kids if there's a connection. I don't know if you probably had opposing coaches, if they're connected to those players or not. And I feel bad for the kids because you can see it in their body language. You can see it in their faces, and you can see it in their interaction with their teammates. They're just so disconnected from their coaches. And I would love for coaches to truly understand the impact they're having in those moments.
Right. And to talk about this even more, it's hard to sometimes impact and get close to some kids. Sometimes it's hard and you can't crack that barrier. And I wish, like I said before, I wish I could have a little more Coach T in me and maybe be better at that, because by no means am I perfect at relationship building, but I try. But it is a way to get closer to your kids and get the best out of them. It's just not always possible to meet the needs of every kid, and you try and try and try. It just doesn't happen. And you want them to, you want them to see that what you're trying to do. But
yeah, well, I appreciate, you said accomplished. You wish you had a little, more of me, but you're you, my man. And I definitely I've never won a state title, so think about your impact on your kids being you is how you did that. So as much as you may want something of me, man, it's you. I want a little what you have too, because I think that's what's great. But I think what I'm taking from what you're saying is, you feel like there's a intangible, if you will, but you possess that stuff, man.
It's the best feeling in the world to win a state championship. And I'm not gonna lie, that's like, it feels really good, but it does feel good when a kid texts you and says, "Hey coach, can we come back to open gym? Can you want to meet up for dinner?" Just the other night, we went out with two kids that played for us on one of our other state tournament teams. And had a good time. So that means a lot to me as well. It's not just because I've lost a lot of games. I mean, the one win was absolutely great, but you do deep down, I do want those relationships with my players, and some of them get it and some of them don't over time. But I try to get to all of them.
What was your initial reaction when that final buzzer went off? Because take us through that feeling. What's going through your head? How are you thinking you're going to react? Are you in disbelief or are you just excited?
Well, I kept looking at the clock and there was like 4 minutes left and we're down 10, 12. And I kept saying, well, I guess state runner-up looks pretty good. And then when we kept chipping away and where we tied it and then we hit the free throws out, it's almost like this isn't real. This isn't real. And it kind of takes your breath away, and it's like, pinch me, did this happen? It really takes your breath away. But it's one of the greatest experiences that you can experience as a coach and a player. I never got to experience it as a player, but it was awesome to succeed at the stuff that you've been working at for so long in your life to get to that point. It's making me emotional now talking about it. It's a great feeling.
But that's why I wanted you to do it, because I wanted our listeners to understand, as a coach, you never forget a moment. And that moment wasn't about you. It was those emotions that you're displaying now are about knowing how hard those kids worked to come back from 10 or 12 down and ultimately win the state title, and to be a part of it, know that you were a big part of it. You were the leader behind all of that. It does give you that kind of feeling. I think back to, it was a year after coaching you, and I went to coach I think it was the 15 and under gold team, and we went to the nationals in it was Kingsport. We went to Kingsport, Tennessee, and we ran through the pool round, won every game, and then we play Wisconsin Fond du Lac. Never forget it. And we go and we get blasted, lose by I think 20. And I reached down to grab my clipboard and all this stuff, and I just broke down. Cried like a baby kind of thing, because the emotions, because the first feeling I had is I had let the guys down. That was my initial feeling. I had let them down. Do you know that every single one of those players came over to me to help me up and said, "Coach, you did a great job. We didn't play well." That experience is something I'll never forget, but it's also the power of relationships that you develop with your players. And as I'm telling you this, I'm thinking back to those hard workouts we did every weekend leading up to that tournament and how hard I was on them. But it was still that appreciation for the tough love. And then even though we didn't get the results that we wanted, they were appreciative of the efforts that I put forth as a coach. And I was more than appreciative of the effort they put forth. We played a better team that day. But there's always a silver lining in that. We ended up finished 10th in the nation because we actually was double elimination. So we did make it to the medal round, and the guys just, pulled it together and did it. But I wanted to share that because, similar to yours was a victorious moment. Mine was not, but the emotions were kind of the same because it wasn't about me. It was about the players.
To talk more about that, 3 years following our state championship run, we made it back to the state tournament 3 more times, and we ended up losing. I felt really bad for the players. Like, I feel like I let them down. And it's because I've been there and felt that feeling, and I wanted the new group to get that feeling. But we just didn't get there. We were close, 2 games away. You do feel like you're letting everybody down. People from the outside of your team, including parents and, outsiders, people on social media, whatever, basketball trainers, whatever, they don't understand what goes on inside your program from a day-to-day basis and how hard it actually is to make teams gel and kids work together. And it is very special when they do and make runs. But you do feel bad as a coach, like you're letting it's all on your shoulders when you don't reach the pinnacle sometimes. And I just wish people could sometimes be in my shoes and your shoes and understand those feelings sometimes, that we are giving our all as well. And so is your child, your friends in school, but sometimes we don't reach it, and it is disappointing. But you got to, pick it back up the next day and try again.
I know we're on this topic of, and it's really about emotions and connections is what we're talking about. I have a picture that I posted a few times. You've probably seen it, but it's a picture that speaks 1,000 words. And it's a picture of me embracing a player. This is after my 4th year at Spelsberg Academy. I just finished my 10th year. So it's after my 4th year. And he and I are embracing, both of us in tears. And it's one of those things that goes to your point about parents not knowing what goes on inside the lines, right? And the first 2 years with these boys, when they were 5th and 6th grade, we won a combined 6 games in 2 years and lost 32 games in 2 years. Well, fast forward to that embrace was after the 4th year, when undefeated won the conference championship. Well, I was just congratulating all the guys. But this one player, he was one of those scrappy players that was always in everything. And, he always left everything on the floor. Smallest guy out there, got thrown around like a rag doll. But we're just embracing, hey, congratulations. And just when we embraced, it was just like all the emotions came out of all the hard work that they had put in over those 4 years and culminated in an undefeated season. And I think that moment and that embrace, it kind of hit them at that moment. And of course, I just kind of followed suit. But that's the power of coaches and the power of young people. And I think that's where I want to get to our last part, is the impact that kids have on us as coaches. And I think that, we talk so much about coaches impacting kids. I can tell you, you're a prime example of you've impacted me as a coach. More importantly, because the relationship we continue to have, because you value it, but I've learned from you just as much as you've learned from me. And I think that's something I think is important that parents understand too, is we as coaches are always looking to get better. And how do we get better? With every player that we coach, we get better as a coach. And those kids make us better.
Absolutely. And like I said, it's nice to see some kids come back and come to your games, ones that have graduated. They come back, want to help. You see maybe that you rubbed off on them a little bit, and, maybe they want to become coaches and help and other kids and teach the game and teach aspects of life. Kids affect me all the time, and it's very rewarding to see them succeed. And, sometimes it's, a kid that doesn't play that much, he gets in and makes a basket. To me, that's the best feeling, because maybe I made that kid's year or life to play high school basketball by letting him in the game and score a basket when he's never played. Or, maybe it's, your best player, you're helping them look at colleges, get them to the next level. It's rewarding when they make it there. And it's great to see kids, get jobs when they outside of basketball. Like, oh, this kid went and graduated college. Now he has a job. Maybe he's going to be on time to things, sometimes they're not always on time to your practices. Little things like that are rewarding when you see them succeed and, graduate from high school, then they go into college and graduate, whether they're playing basketball or not. I'm just now seeing some of the kids that I coached 20 years ago at other high schools with nice jobs, and they're impacting other people. And that's rewarding to me. Of course, I have the one kid that played at VMI who's he's down at South Alabama, redshirting and getting another year because of COVID. So it's exciting to watch him and see his possibility of playing professional ball here in the future. That's rewarding too, but it is rewarding to see some of these kids in their careers.
Yeah, as much as I like hearing that, Coach, I don't like hearing that, because you're talking about when you coached him 20 years ago. How old do you think that makes me feel?
Me too,
right? Yeah, but like you said, it is a great feeling though. My wife just reminded me the other day. She goes, "Hey, do you know so-and-so just turned 21?" I'm like, 21? I'm like, he was the first kid I coached at this school where I am now, and he just turned 21. I'm like, wow, time flies. But that's the other thing too. We both love what we do as far as coaching so much that you forget about time. I know I do. You forget about time because you're so enthralled in it, and you realize the impact that you're having on lives, not just teaching the game, but life skills, that you're so enthralled in it that you don't think about time because you're thinking about the results of what you're working to do.
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny you say that, as I'm scrolling through social media trying to find former players. And then, you start looking at it day after day and stuff pops up. I was like, oh, did that kid play for me at Monacan? Oh, no, that's a high school, another high school. But, to me, everybody who plays for us is a part of the same team. Those players that I coached at Midlothian Middle, Monacan's ninth grade 25 years ago, Maggie Walker, Stewart, Bless Sacrament Huguenot, all those kids molded our system to what it is today. Like, if we didn't go through those experiences as coaches with those kids, we'd have never got to where we were and where we are now. So like when I talk about that state championship, when we won that's not just for that group of Monacan kids in my mind. Yes, they won it. Congrats, awesome. But that's for all those kids that played for us and went through everything with us. To me, they're a part of that too, because they helped shape that and in indirect ways. But it's funny you say that, because sometimes I get confused what teams they were on.
Yeah. I meant to tell you in the beginning, I had Sean Miller on here recently. And because that was a former teammate of yours, and I forgot that you guys played together. I forgot about that. So maybe I have to have you guys back on together. The reason I also mentioned him is kind of what you're talking about too, when kids, graduate college and get a job, and then you see them helping people. Sean is the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club, Metro Richmond, and see what he's doing after college and after getting his life together. And he went through some tough times and kind of got himself back together. And when people find their way, man, the impact that they're making is just amazing. And it's a testament to their will and determination, but it's also for you as well. And I'm just happy for you that, you're still coaching, and hopefully we see you getting another state championship. And when you get to that, be sure to keep me posted, because I'm going to make the next one. Then again, maybe I better not, because I might be bad luck for you. I wasn't there the first time, so probably best if I wasn't.
Well, I am superstitious, but you're more than welcome to come if I ever make it there.
Yeah. Well, I might not tell you. How about that? And then if you win, I'll come out there. If you don't win, I'll just leave. You won't even know.
Absolutely. Of course, I would want you there, though. That's what
yeah. Absolutely.
And it's funny you say that. It's about relationships. And that state championship game, there was people that I went to college with, hadn't seen for years, that showed up to it. Friends from high school, former players from other teams that I coached sat right behind the bench. Parents of current kids that I teach at other schools that I don't even coach. I mean, so teaching and coaching, you can build a lot of relationships, and like ours. I mean, it's great. I wouldn't trade it for the world, for any money in the world. This is what I felt like I was meant to do, So I'm happy that I had great coaches like yourself and Coach Hinthorn, Coach Johnson, and a few others along the way that, helped pave my way to be in the position I am right now. And I'm very appreciative.
No, I am as well. And I appreciate it. I'm appreciative of our relationship. And like I said, having the pleasure to not only meet you, but coach you and still follow you and stay in contact with you. And of course, this won't be the last time we talk, of course, because, we're always in contact with each other. But I just want to thank you again for, taking time out, coming on and sharing your coaching experience and the impact that kids have on you and you have on them and your state championship experience. I think that's something that some of our listeners don't know what it's like from a coach's perspective to have those feelings. But I definitely would love to have you back on because I'd love to talk a little bit more about that. You mentioned something a few minutes ago about that recruiting part and helping kids. I don't think a lot of coaches do that enough. And I think that's a great topic for a follow-up episode with you.
Oh, absolutely. And, like I said, I try to do everything possible to help kids, go with them on visits and talk to coaches. But like I said, I'm not perfect at anything. I could get better at everything, but I like to help in that process.
So one last question I wanted to ask you is who was the most influential person in your life growing up?
It probably was my dad.
I knew you would say that.
Yeah. He was pretty hard on me when it came to like baseball and basketball. But he I always wanted to please him and do the right thing. And as far, not just sports, but like, do the right thing with how I carry myself or, not getting in trouble, all, doing my schoolwork, all that good stuff. So he's somebody that I still, always call for advice or, am I going to make my dad mad if I do this? It's always in the back of my head. So I would say, of course, my mother as well. But my dad was the one that was always like, I got to toe the line with.
Yeah, you better drop your mom in there because she likes a lot of my posts on Instagram. If she finds out you didn't mention her, I'm going to call you out.
She's great too, but she's more supportive and understanding. He's more of like, we got to toe the line on all aspects of life.
You got a great family, man. You got a great family, and I'm just honored to be a part of it because we are family for sure. But thank you again, Coach, and I appreciate it. And I love it, the fact that you're a player now with colleagues. I mean, it's I've lasted a test of time and blessed enough to still do it. And you're just in the prime of your coaching. So we definitely hope to see you win more than that one state championship.
Well, I appreciate it, Coach. And as always, anytime you need me for anything, let me know. I'm excited to do these things with you, and I'm excited for what you've created. It's fun to watch and follow.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hey, don't forget now, my book just came out, so be sure to get it for your daughters. What you can't teach them, I can help you with.
Exactly, which I need a lot of help with them. But I am going to order the book, so I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it. And listen, I'm Coach G, and as always, I'm here to educate, support, and inspire the next generation of leaders. Until the next episode, take care.
Coach T's new book, The Ultimate Guide to Success for Preteens and Teens, is the perfect resource for preteen and teen personal growth and development skills. It breaks down in detail his Sea of Success program and its applications in 10 key development areas. The program applies Coach T's 3 key components: simplicity, effort, and attitude. Order your copy today on Amazon. Available in paperback and hardback.